In this demonstration, we're going to cover the feature layer context menu found in ArcGIS Pro. All right, so for this demonstration, I have a project loaded in ArcGIS Pro called EX2A. You can see I have a single map with multiple layers loaded in my table of contents. And so what we want to do is kind of illustrate this concept of context menus. So context menus are additional menu items or interface items that are sometimes present in ArcGIS Pro and at other times they're not. It's dependent upon the context of how you're using the software. This particular demonstration is going to illustrate the feature layer context menu. So by default, anytime you open up ArcGIS Pro, you're going to have a default set of tabs here, starting with project, ending with share. But there are additional tabs that can become present at different times depending upon the current situation or context of how you're using the software. The feature layer context tab becomes activated anytime you click a layer in the contents pane. So for example, if I click on parcels, you'll notice that my feature layer context tab becomes activated. All of your context tabs will have a different background color. The feature layer context tab is orange. Others are blue, some are green, right? Some are red. But the point is that each of the context tabs has a different background color. That's just so that you can distinguish between what is a context tab and what is just a regular ArcGIS Pro tab. So the feature layer context tab, again, is going to be tied to whatever layer you selected in the contents pane. It consists of three tabs: appearance, labeling, and data. And there's a lot of functionality provided by these three tabs. And again, they're always tied back to whatever layer you selected. The appearance tab, and again, we're not going to go into specifics here. I'm just going to kind of give you a high-level overview of what's provided on each of these tabs. On the appearance tab, you have the ability to set a visibility range, so you can set in and out beyond scales. It allows you to control the visibility of a layer based on map scale. We have some effects, the primary or most used one probably being the transparency setting. Right? It allows you to kind of see through a layer into what's below it. You have some options here for blending. There is a swipe tool that allows you to turn layers on and off as necessary. Flicker tool. Symbology. This allows you to access different ways of symbolizing your layers. We'll go into more detail on this in a later demonstration. So these are some of your drawing tools for masking, display filters. You can import layer files and attach them to a layer. Extrusion for extruding your two-dimensional data into three-dimensional data. And I'm not going to go into faces here, but that deals with three-dimensional data as well. The labeling tab allows you to set various labeling settings and control labeling in different ways. The button on the far left is the toggle button that allows you to turn labels on and off. The drop down under field, this is where you define the field that will be used to draw your labels. Your label class, every layer has a default class, label class called class 1. You can change the name of that label class if you need to. You can add additional classes. Each class can be used to define different labeling characteristics so that you can change labels very quickly in different ways. The SQL button, this allows you to initiate the SQL pane, and it allows you to control which features are going to be labeled and which features are not going to be labeled. So in other words, you are able to filter out or filter in, as it would be, what features will be labeled. The expression button, when you click this, this opens up a pane that will allow you to define an arcade expression. This would be used for situations where you need to define a complex labeling expression, right? Something other than just labeling the content from a particular field. So you can add in a combination of static text and dynamic text and add multiple fields for your labeling through that expression button. Visibility range, this allows you to set the visibility range based on map scale for the labels. Under text symbol, lots of options here for defining the text symbol that will be used for your labels. You can control label placement. These values will change depending upon the feature type. Right now I've got a polygon layer. If I were to select a line layer or a point layer, you would get different options here in terms of label placement. And a few additional options here for labeling on the right-hand side. And then finally, the data tab. Options here for setting the current definition query if you have one. Right now I don't have one applied to that layer. Open the attribute table, work with the selection set, do data design operations like adding fields, subtypes, domains, relationships for defining spatial joins, joins and relates. You can export the features, export the tabular data, create charts and graphs. So as you can see, just kind of going through these three tabs, right? Appearance, labeling, and data. A lot of functionality here, and they're always tied to whatever layer you've currently selected in the table of contents. So if you come up here and you select a different layer, you'll still see the context menu items, but then they're tied to a different layer. So it's always tied to the layer that you have selected in the contents pane. But again, a lot of functionality here for being able to work with the individual layers that you've added to your map. All right, that's all I need to show you for this time. I appreciate you joining me, and we'll see you next time.